The scream didn't echo through the mansion, it died inside it. The walls were too thick, the hallways too long, the rooms too polished and quiet for sound to escape. But Cole Maddox heard it anyway. He wasn't even supposed to be near the mayor's estate that night, but fate had a strange habit of dragging him toward darkness the way storms find open seas. He was crossing the neighborhood on a late-night run when the sound cut through the air like a blade, soft, muffled but unmistakable, the panicked cry of a young woman, and then another sound followed, one that made his blood run cold. A dog yelped, not the playful kind of bark or the startled sort. This was pain, sharp, piercing. The sound an animal makes when something cruel finds it. Cole stopped dead on the sidewalk. Thor, his K9 partner running beside him, froze as well. The Malinois ears shot up, his nostrils flaring toward the gated property. Cole looked at the mansion, lights glowing behind thick curtains, a fountain bubbling in perfect calmness. It looked peaceful, wealthy, untouchable. But Cole had learned a long time ago that the ugliest monsters lived in the prettiest cages. Thor growled low and controlled. Then came the shatter of glass. Cole didn't hesitate another second. He sprinted toward the gate. The mayor's estate was the kind of place that pretended to be open, beautiful stone pillars, immaculate landscaping, warm porch lights, but once inside, everything became a fortress. But Cole didn't need permission to enter the home of a monster. He grabbed the bars, vaulted the gate in a single motion, and landed silently on the grass. Thor slipped under the spacing effortlessly, his body low, senses on overdrive. They moved up the curved driveway like shadows, boots barely touching the stone. As Cole approached the house, a voice carried through the open patio door. A man's voice, slurred, cruel, oozing with the arrogance of someone who believed he owned the world around him. "Cry one more time and you'll get worse." Cole's jaw clenched as the words hit him. Another muffled sob followed. He recognized abuse instantly, the tone, the cadence, the imbalance of power. It always sounded the same. Thor's growl deepened. Inside the luxurious living room, the scene unfolded like something out of a nightmare. Mayor Robert Langley, wealthy, influential, polished for cameras, stood in the center of the room, red-faced and swaying slightly, a cracked beer bottle in one hand. The other hand was gripping the arm of his daughter, a girl barely 17, tears streaking down her face, fear etched into every fragile line of her posture. At her feet lay her dog, a small white terrier, whimpering, its fur soaked with spilled beer, one side of its head bleeding where glass had struck it. Cole saw red. The mayor lifted the bottle again, as if the world belonged to him. "What did I tell you about talking back?" Langley roared, lifting the bottle higher. The girl sobbed, shielding the tiny dog with her body. "No, Dad, please, he didn't do anything, please." Langley's arm arched back. Thor barked loud, sharp, commanding. Langley spun around. His bleary eyes widened as he saw Cole standing in the doorway, shadows stretching into the room like something carved from war. Cole didn't speak. He didn't need to. Langley laughed, a disgusting, nasally laugh dripping with contempt. "Well, look who wandered in. What are you supposed to be? Security? You're trespassing on." Cole took one step forward. Langley flinched. The girl looked up, eyes wide with desperate hope. Thor moved in beside Cole, shoulders squared, ready. Cole's voice came low, steady, lethal. "Put the bottle down." Langley blinked, then sneered. "Or what? You're gonna bark like your mutt? This is my house, my kid, my dog. I'll do whatever the hell I..." Before he could finish, Cole crossed the distance so fast the mayor stumbled backward in shock. Cole ripped the bottle from Langley's hand and threw it aside. It shattered harmlessly across the marble floor. The mayor staggered, hands up. Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes," Cole said coldly, "a man who hurts defenseless things." Langley's face twisted, ego bruising at the speed of sound. "She's my daughter, you don't get to tell me how to discipline her, you don't get to..." Cole grabbed Langley by the collar and slammed him against the wall so hard a painting fell sideways. The mayor's breath hitched. His confidence evaporated. His arrogance shriveled. Cole leaned in, voice a whisper sharpened into a blade. "Discipline isn't what you're doing, this is abuse, and I've put down men for less." The girl gasped softly, clutching the trembling dog to her chest. Langley stammered, You can't touch me, I'll ruin you, You've already ruined everything you touch," Cole growled. Langley shoved him weakly. "Get out of my house before I call the police." Cole stepped closer, eyes burning. "Call them." Langley froze. Cole's voice dropped to a deadly calm. And I'll show them your daughter's bruises, your fingerprints, the dog's injuries, the broken bottle covered in her blood. He leaned even closer. And I'll testify myself. Langley swallowed hard. He looked around as if searching for help, but the mansion was silent, no guards, no staff. He was alone, exposed, cornered. And sober enough to understand just how badly he had miscalculated this night. The girl's voice trembled behind Cole. "Sir, please don't let him." "I won't," Cole said without turning. Langley's eyes darted around wildly. Look, this is all a misunderstanding, okay? She's dramatic. The dog got in the way, you know how teenagers are." A faint whimper interrupted him. The dog was bleeding through its fur. Cole's eyes hardened even further. Langley realized it too late. Because the moment Cole decided someone was a danger to a child or animal, the outcome was already determined. The mayor tried a different tone. Let me explain." Cole grabbed him again, this time by the wrist. Langley cried out as Cole twisted the arm behind his back and forced him to his knees on the marble floor. Thor barked once, packing like a soldier guarding a prisoner. Langley struggled uselessly. You can't do this, I'm the mayor, I have power." Cole's voice was ice. "Not tonight." The girl clutched her dog, watching with shaking shoulders. Cole glanced at her gently. "You're safe now." She nodded, tears spilling down her face. "Thank you." Langley thrashed again. "You're dead, Maddox, you hear me, dead." Cole tightened his grip. "Thor." Thor moved forward, growling inches from the mayor's face. Langley froze completely, fear finally overpowered ego. Cole leaned down, voice a razor. "If you ever touch her again, I won't stop at your wrist." Langley whimpered. But Cole wasn't finished. Because in that moment, restraining a powerful man who thought his title made him untouchable, Cole realized something far bigger was happening in this mansion. Something the girl had been terrified to say aloud. Something the bruises on her arms hinted at. Something the dog's injury confirmed. Something rotten. Something systemic. And something far darker than a single abusive father. As Cole held Langley pinned, the girl suddenly whispered. "He wasn't the only one hurting us." Cole's eyes snapped to hers. Thor stiffened. The girl swallowed hard, voice trembling as she held the injured dog close. "There's someone else in the house." And then, a floorboard creaked upstairs. The sound from upstairs was small enough that anyone else might have dismissed it as the house settling. But Cole's ears were trained on threat like radar, and that single creak felt heavier than the mayor's entire weight under his knee. Thor's head snapped toward the staircase, nose flaring. The dog let out a warning rumble, low and serious. Cole shifted his grip on Langley's arm, tightening the hold just enough to make him wince. "Who else is here?" Cole asked, eyes locked on the girl. She swallowed, hugging the bleeding terrier tighter to her chest. Her voice cracked when she spoke. "My uncle, he comes over when my mom's away." Her gaze flicked nervously toward the stairs. "Dad says he's helping the family." The way she said it told Cole enough. And too much. Langley tried to twist his head around, panic flashing through his alcohol-fogged eyes. "You keep your mouth shut," he snarled at her. "You don't say a word about." Cole yanked his arm higher and Langley's threat turned into a strangled shout. "You've done enough talking," Cole said flatly. "Stay on your knees." He let go with one hand long enough to pull a zip tie from his pocket. Old habits, he'd never quite broken the routine of carrying restraints. In a few quick, practiced movements, he bound Langley's wrists behind his back and shoved him down onto his stomach. The mayor writhed for a second and then gave up, chest heaving against the cold marble. Cole stood, chest rising and falling slowly, eyes already shifting toward the stairs. "Thor," he said quietly, snapping his fingers and pointing to the mayor. "Guard." Thor moved instantly, padding over to Langley and standing over him with teeth faintly bared. One wrong move and the message was clear. Cole turned to the girl. "What's your name?" "Leela," she whispered. "Leela, listen to me," Cole said gently, but there was no softness in his focus. "You and your dog come over here behind the sofa, stay low, don't move unless I tell you to, understand?" She nodded quickly, tears still streaking her cheeks. Is he going to kill us?" Her eyes flicked to the ceiling. "Not while I'm here," Cole said. Those were the kinds of words he didn't say lightly. Leela moved shakily toward the far side of the room, cradling the terrier as if the little dog were the only anchor she had left. The animal whimpered but nestled into her arms, trusting her completely despite the pain. Cole listened. The house was quiet again. But quiet, he knew, was just another tactic. Slowly, he moved toward the staircase. The mansion's elegance felt sickening now: polished wood, crystal chandeliers, framed photos showing Langley shaking hands with senators, cutting ribbons, smiling for cameras. All the manufactured goodness in the world pasted over rot. Halfway up the stairs, he heard it. A door closing softly, deliberate. Cole's jaw tightened. He reached the landing and moved down the hallway, steps light, breath controlled. The lights here were dimmer, set low like the kind you'd see in a hotel corridor, expensive, designed to flatter everything they touched. He counted doors as he passed them: one guest bedroom, another, a bathroom, then Leela's room. He knew it before he saw the nameplate on the door, before he noticed the pictures drawn in marker on a whiteboard hung beside it. The door was slightly ajar. The faintest sliver of light spilled out into the hallway. Someone was inside. Cole didn't hesitate. He pushed the door open with a quiet, measured force and stepped in. The bedroom was tidy in the way that suggested forced neatness, things arranged more for someone else's approval than the girl who slept there. Posters were carefully framed instead of taped. The bedspread was new, pristine. Against the far wall sat a small desk with a laptop closed on top, a lamp still on. A wardrobe door stood open an inch. But what drew his attention was the man standing beside the bookshelf. Mid-40s, expensive shirt, sleeves rolled back, dark hair combed too perfectly, smile sharp and practiced. He was holding a glass of whiskey like he had all the time in the world. And he wasn't surprised to see Cole. "Well," the man said calmly, "that's new." Cole sized him up in a matter of seconds. Clean shoes, no visible weapons, ring finger bare, watch expensive, eyes cold, and behind those eyes something calculating, something dangerous in a very different way than Langley's drunk rage. "You're not security," the man added, taking a slow sip, "and you don't look like a burglar." "Put the glass down," Cole said evenly. The man's smile sharpened. "And who exactly are you to give orders in my niece's home?" "You must be the uncle," Cole replied, ignoring the question. The man tilted his head. "That's one word for it." Cole's hand twitched, wanting to reach for the phone in his pocket, knowing it would be pointless. Men like this didn't leave trails that could be captured in 30-second videos. Men like this thrived in shadows. "You heard what was happening downstairs," Cole said, "and you didn't step in." "On the contrary," the man said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "I stepped aside. Robert handles his discipline as he sees fit. It's not my place to intervene in his parenting." The word discipline hit Cole like a physical blow. He thought of the broken bottle, the bruises, the terrified dog. His voice dropped. "Hurting a child and an animal isn't discipline." The uncle sighed as if bored. "Spare me the hero speech. You barge into a private home, put hands on an elected official, and I'm supposed to believe you're here to rescue her? Please." He took another sip. "You don't look like a cop. You're not wearing a badge." "I don't need one," Cole said. "I've got eyes." The man's smile didn't fade, but his gaze hardened. "Ah, ex-military then." He looked Cole up and down. "Let me guess, Navy, Army, you people all have the same posture." Cole didn't answer. He didn't need to. The uncle glanced at the door, then back at Cole. "Here, what's going to happen? You're going to turn around, walk back out of this room, and pretend you never saw me. You'll leave Robert to handle his family as he always has, and in return, I won't make a call that ruins whatever quiet life you've tried to build since leaving, wherever they sent you." Cole took another step into the room, muscles coiling beneath his shirt. "And if I do?" The man's smile thinned. "Then things get noisy. Police show up and find you restraining a drunk mayor in his own home while his hysterical daughter clutches a dog you probably injured by accident in the chaos. Who do you think they'll believe, the decorated public official?" He spread his arms slightly. "Or the stranger?" Cole had heard threats before, from cartel bosses, from corrupt officers, from warlords who thought their influence could extend beyond the reach of justice. But there was something particularly venomous about this man, this smug, polished predator who hid behind titles and family ties. Cole stared at him and, for the first time since entering the house, allowed a hint of what he was feeling to reach his eyes. Disgust. You're not just watching it happen, Cole said quietly, you're part of it. The uncle's smile finally cracked, irritation flaring across his face. You're in over your head, soldier. I've been over my head my entire life, Cole said calmly, and I always find a way out. The man set his glass down on the shelf with deliberate care. Last chance, he said softly, walk away and I'll pretend this never happened. Stay and you'll lose more than you can imagine. Cole's voice went deadly soft. She's a kid, he said. What exactly do you think I'm willing to lose? The uncle's expression shifted then, from smug to something colder. Predatory. You know what your problem is? He said. You people come back from war and think everything is still that simple. Good guy, bad guy, enemy, civilian. The world doesn't work like that. Power decides who's right, not conscience. He stepped a little closer. And in this city, power is on our side. Cole didn't move. He just watched him. The uncle's pupils shifted, just a flicker but enough. Cole saw it. The decision. The man lunged, not clumsily, not like a drunk, but with the speed of someone who'd thrown a punch before. His hand went not for Cole's throat but for his waistband, reaching for something. Cole reacted faster. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisting it sideways in a move so fluid it looked choreographed. There was a glint of metal, a small knife falling from the uncle's hand and clattering against the hardwood floor. Cole stepped in, turning his body to use the man's momentum against him. The uncle slammed back into the wall with a grunt, arm pinned behind him. I told you, Cole murmured in his ear, power doesn't impress me. The uncle laughed breathlessly, pain lacing his voice. You think this changes anything? You think one ex-SEAL and his mutt are going to fix this family? He tried to jerk free and failed. There are people above Robert, above me. You have no idea what you're interfering with. Then start talking, Cole said. Who's above you? The man clamped his jaw shut. Footsteps sounded at the doorway. Cole turned his head slightly. Leela stood there, one hand gripping the doorframe, the other holding her dog against her. Her face was pale, eyes vibrant with fear and something else. Anger. Tell him, she whispered hoarsely. Tell him about the parties, the donors, the friends you bring when mom's gone. The uncle went rigid. Cole felt the truth in that reaction like a pulse. This isn't just about one house, is it? Cole said. You're supplying something, someone. Leela's throat worked as she forced the words out. He brings men here, important men, when Dad wants more money for his campaigns, when he wants favors. They drink in the study and then, her gaze fell to the floor. They start asking about me. Cole felt an old, familiar heat rise in him. The kind he'd felt in combat when an enemy crossed a line no human should ever cross. The uncle hissed through his teeth, you little. Cole shoved his arm higher, cutting off the insult with a sharp cry of pain. Watch your mouth, he said coldly. He looked at Leela. Is there any staff in the house, anyone loyal to you? She shook her head. They're all his or scared of him. They pretend not to see anything. Of course they did. Predators surrounded themselves with people who liked shadows. Cole let the uncle drop to his knees and slapped a zip tie around his wrists as well. The man glared up at him, breathing hard, but said nothing. You're going to stay here and think very carefully about what you're going to tell the police, Cole said, because they are coming. The uncle spat on the floor at Cole's feet. You really believe they'll arrest me, arrest Robert? He laughed harshly. Half of them attend those parties. Leela flinched. Cole looked down at him for a long moment. Maybe they won't, he conceded, tonight. The uncle frowned, caught off guard by the answer. But here's the difference between you and me, Cole continued quietly. You think this all stays buried, that money and friends and titles make it untouchable. I know better. I've watched empires fall because one man decided to stop being quiet. He leaned in, and for the first time, that old steel slid fully into his voice. I'm that man tonight. The uncle sneered. You'll be dead in a week. Maybe, Cole said, but not before I make enough noise that you'll never sleep soundly again. Leela's small voice cut through the tension. What are we going to do? Cole turned to her, his expression softening slightly. First, we get you and your dog checked by a doctor and a vet. Then we document every bruise, every injury, every broken thing in this house. After that, he glanced back at the bound men. We start pulling strings. But you heard him, she said, voice shaking. They control everything. Not everything, Cole said. They don't control me, and they don't control the truth. Downstairs, Thor barked once, sharp, insistent. Cole's instincts flared again. He moved to the doorway and peered over the landing. Through the front windows, he could see the flash of blue and red lights cutting through the night. Police. Several cars. Fast. Too fast. The uncle smiled slowly, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Told you, he chuckled. Power. Cole's eyes narrowed. Because as the squad cars rolled up, he noticed something that twisted his stomach. No sirens. No hesitation. They weren't arriving like responders. They were arriving like expected guests. And in that moment, standing in a house owned by a monster with his equally poisonous brother bound on the floor and a terrified girl behind him, Cole realized the truth. This wasn't going to be a simple rescue. It was about to become a siege. Cole watched the silent police cars glide to a stop the way a wolf pack circles an injured deer, slow, calm, confident. Their headlights cut across the mansion's exterior, illuminating the lawn, the driveway, and the heavy iron gate that now stood wide open, inviting them in. Thor barked again from below, the deep, urgent bark he used only when he sensed a threat approaching, not a rescue. Cole stepped halfway down the staircase, keeping his body angled to watch both the entrance below and the hallway behind him where Leela stood clutching her bleeding dog. The uncle, bound and kneeling, let out a low, half-mocking breath. See, I told you you've stepped into a game you can't win. His voice dripped with satisfaction even through the pain in his joints. Those officers don't answer to the law, they answer to us. Cole ignored him. Blue and red lights strobed across the interior walls as several officers exited the cars. At first glance, they looked like any other group of uniformed cops, badges glinting, radios clipped to shoulders, hands resting casually on belts. But Cole wasn't fooled. Their stances were wrong, too stiff and too controlled. None of them looked confused or alarmed. None reached for flashlights or asked questions. They walked toward the front door like men who already knew exactly what they would find inside. The sergeant in front, a tall man with a shaved head and a hard jaw, paused near the porch steps. He turned his head slightly, listening. Cole knew that posture. He'd seen soldiers wearing it in war zones before breaching buildings. This wasn't law enforcement. This was a cleanup crew. Leela, Cole said quietly, turning his head just enough to see her. Get into your room, lock the door, stay quiet. She didn't move. Are they here to take me back, to help him? Cole softened his voice even while his heart hammered. They're not here for you, they're here to silence everyone. His gaze flicked to the stairs above her. Go now. She hugged her dog tightly and backed into her room, shutting the door without another sound. Cole faced the hallway again. The uncle smirked. You can't protect her from this, you're one man. And you're one coward, Cole shot back, which is why I'm still standing and you're zip-tied to the floor. The uncle's smile trembled, but only slightly. Downstairs, the front door handle turned. No knock. No announcement. Just entry. Thor growled so deeply it vibrated through the railing. Cole stepped back up the stairs and pressed himself against the wall just as the front door opened. 4 officers stepped in, guns already unholstered but kept low, as if trying to maintain a facade of legitimacy even though the crime scene told a different story. The tall officer scanned the room and froze when he saw Langley lying face down on the floor, restrained, with Thor standing over him. He didn't shout freeze or police. He didn't ask what happened. He smiled. A slow, practiced, cruel smile. Then he lifted his radio, target acquired. Cole's stomach tightened. They weren't here to question. They weren't here to rescue. They were here to eliminate witnesses and restore the mayor's perfect facade. Langley lifted his head weakly. Thank God you're here, arrest that. The tall officer kicked him in the ribs so hard he slid across the floor with a cry. Thor barked, teeth flashing, ready to lunge. Cole stepped forward, Thor heel. Thor backed up but stayed positioned like a soldier ready to strike when ordered. The other 3 officers spread out, moving with tactical precision, 2 toward the stairs, 1 toward the rear hall, clearing blind spots. The lead officer ran a hand over his jaw. You've caused us a problem tonight, he said into the room, projecting his voice calmly. and the mayor's office doesn't like problems. Cole descended 2 steps, slow and controlled. I won't say this twice, he said. Holster your weapons and step away from the girl's father. The officers laughed. Not nervously. Not awkwardly. Mockingly. The tall one looked up the stairs directly at Cole. Former military, right? SEAL, he pointed at Thor, and K9, nice combination. Shame you chose the wrong house to play hero. Cole didn't blink. You hurt that girl, you hurt her dog, you try coming up these stairs and you won't leave this house standing. The officer raised his gun slightly, not aiming yet, just posturing. We don't need to leave it standing. He nodded to the man on his right. Check the upstairs. That was the moment the siege truly began. Cole fired first. He drew fast, shooting the stairwell officer in the shoulder before the man could react. The officer spun backward, hitting the banister. At the same instant, Cole ducked as the tall officer fired back. The bullet punched into the wooden frame behind Cole's head, splintering the polished surface. Thor, Cole shouted. Thor didn't need more than that. The dog launched forward, slamming into the legs of the closest officer. The man went down hard, gun clattering across the floor. Thor stood over him, growling, fangs inches from the officer's throat. The tall officer aimed at Thor. Cole fired again, forcing him to dive behind a marble column. Down the hall upstairs, Leela screamed. Cole sprinted up the remaining stairs, boots pounding against the polished surface. He reached the landing just as a uniformed officer grabbed Leela's door handle, trying to force it open. Cole tackled him. They crashed into the hallway wall with a blunt thud. The officer swung his elbow up blindly, catching Cole on the jaw hard enough to rattle his teeth. Cole responded with a punch that cracked across the man's cheekbone. The officer staggered but didn't fall. Cole kicked his knee out from under him. The man dropped. Cole grabbed him by the vest and slammed him into the ground until the fight drained out of him. Another officer fired from below, a gunshot echoing through the mansion. A lamp exploded beside Cole, showering him in glass. He shielded his eyes and dragged the unconscious officer into Leela's room, locking the door behind him. Leela crouched in the corner, shaking. Is Dad, are they? No time, Cole said, grabbing her desk chair and wedging it under the door handle. They're here to clean up the mess, and you're the mess. Leela clutched her dog tighter, voice trembling. Why are they doing this? What did we do? Cole knelt, forcing her to meet his eyes. You survived. People like your father don't leave survivors. A crash shook the hallway. The tall officer was coming up the stairs. Cole stood again. He checked his magazine, half full, not good. He checked the fallen officer's belt, spare mag, better. The uncle's voice floated faintly from downstairs, muffled but cruel. Don't kill the girl yet, we need her compliant. Leela flinched violently. Cole felt something inside him snap. Not rage. Resolve. He moved to the window, 2 floors up, a long drop but survivable with the right timing. He pushed it open quietly. Leela, he whispered, we're leaving now. She stared at the window. Stunned, we'll die. I won't let us. Another crash. The door shook violently. Open it, the tall officer shouted, now. Cole grabbed Leela's trembling hand and her dog, then looked into her eyes. Trust me. She swallowed hard and nodded. Cole scooped them both, braced his boots against the window ledge. The room door splintered. Thor barked desperately downstairs. And Cole jumped. The 3 of them fell through the darkness. Leela screamed. The dog whimpered. Cole twisted midair, angling his body to take the brunt of the landing. They hit the thick hedge below with a crash that knocked air from his lungs. But they were alive. He pulled Leela and the dog into his arms. Move, stay low, stay behind me. The mansion door burst open upstairs. Office, find them. Cole dragged Leela across the lawn toward the side yard, away from the flashing lights and shouting voices. Thor limped around the corner of the mansion, bleeding from a cut above his eye but alive. He trotted to Cole's side instantly, pressing his body against Leela protectively. Cole stroked his fur. Good boy, lead the way. Thor turned toward the dark trees behind the property. Police boots thundered behind them. Cole whispered, go. They vanished into the night. The mayor's empire had just declared war. And Cole Maddox never walked away from war. The forest swallowed them whole. Branches slapped against Cole's shoulders as he carried Leela, her tiny dog cradled between them, while Thor trotted ahead with a limp that broke Cole's heart every time the dog stumbled. The trees were thick and shadowed, weaving into a tangled curtain that hid them from the mansion's floodlights. Behind them, voices cut through the night, shouting officers, radio chatter, the crunch of boots spreading across the estate grounds. But the forest wasn't quiet either. Every crack of a twig sounded like a threat. Every shift of night wind carried the metallic echo of pursuit. Cole slowed only when Leela tugged his sleeve. I can run," she whispered, voice trembling. "You don't have to carry me." Cole knelt so she could slide down safely. Her dog whimpered softly in her arms but stayed tucked tightly into her chest, tiny body still shaking from everything it had endured. Thor pressed his muzzle against the little terrier, offering a reassuring nudge that seemed to steady both animals. Cole placed a hand on Leela's shoulder. "Listen to me," he said quietly. "Where we're going, you stay beside me, you don't fall behind, you move when I move, okay?" She nodded, eyes glassy but determined. He could see her fear, could see how much she wanted to collapse, but she was standing. That alone told him how strong she really was. A tiny crack echoed from behind them. Cole raised a fist instantly. "Stop!" Thor froze mid-step. Leela held her breath so sharply it hurt. Cole leaned against a large oak, listening. Another crack, footsteps, several, moving slowly, quietly, too controlled to be civilians, too many to be animals. He whispered, "They're tracking us." The moon shone faintly through the branches, painting streaks of silver across the forest floor. Cole scanned the shadows, eyes flicking between tree trunks, fallen logs, dips in the terrain. Every sound came into focus. Someone was sweeping left. Another pair moving right. One closing from behind. A coordinated push. They weren't searching. They were hurting. Cole's chest tightened. The group behind him, they knew the terrain better. They'd practiced this before, probably in this exact forest. "Thor," Cole whispered, signaling with a subtle hand motion. Thor moved into position beside him, posture rigid. Hurt or not, the dog was ready to defend. "Leela," Cole said softly, "we're switching direction." "To where?" she whispered. "To the last place they'd expect us to go." He pointed downhill. "Toward the ravine." Leela stared into the darkness. "That drop is huge, we'll fall." "We won't fall," Cole said, "we'll slide." She bit her lip but nodded. Cole took her hand and pulled her forward as they sprinted downhill. Leaves burst beneath them. The ground tilted sharply. The distant voices grew sharper. "Their movement. South Ridge move." Cole didn't slow, neither did Thor, despite the pain he was clearly fighting. The ravine approached fast, a sloping drop filled with mud, roots, and jagged rocks. It wasn't safe, it wasn't even close to safe. But uphill was death. "Hold on," Cole whispered. Then he jumped. Gravity yanked them downward. The world turned into a blur of dirt, branches, and sliding debris. Leela screamed, clutching her dog as Cole wrapped his arm around her shoulders to shield her from a jutting root. Thor slid beside them, paws digging for grip, dirt spraying in all directions. They slid until the forest floor finally leveled out again, the slope ending near an old drainage stream. Cole winced as he landed hard, instinctively rolling to absorb Leela's fall. His body ached everywhere, but they were alive. Thor shook himself violently, flinging mud everywhere. Leela gasped, hugging her dog. "Are we safe?" "No," Cole said, "but we bought time." Up the ravine, flashlights appeared, too high to reach them for a minute or two. Cole helped Leela up. "Keep moving." They followed the stream, staying low. The forest canopy thickened overhead, the moonlight barely touching the ground. The air was cold and heavy, carrying the distant hum of engines. Police cars circling, more units being called. Langley had influence, serious influence. Cole knew they couldn't outrun a corrupt police force forever. He needed shelter, cover, somewhere they could disappear even for 20 minutes. Then they reached it. A weathered maintenance shed sat half-buried near the stream, camouflaged by vines and decades of neglect. Cole pushed the warped door open. The hinges shrieked softly, but inside was dry and shadowed. He ushered Leela and Thor inside and closed the door behind them, leaving only a sliver for air and sight. Leela sank onto an overturned crate, clutching her dog to her chest. Her breath came in sharp, uneven pulls. Cole knelt in front of her. Take slow breaths, you're safe for now. He examined the terrier, carefully parting the fur near the injury. He needs a vet, Cole murmured. He's got head trauma, but he's holding on. Leela nodded, tears trailing down her cheeks. I thought he was going to die, I thought, Dad. Cole put a gentle hand on her arm. He's alive because of you, you protected him. Her lower lip trembled. I couldn't protect myself. Yes, you did, Cole said firmly. You survived, that's strength. Thor nudged Leela's knee softly, sensing her pain. Outside, voices drifted faintly. Start a sweep north. Check the ravine, they had to come this way. Cole stiffened. He peered through the crack in the shed door. Flashlights shimmered between the trees like wandering eyes. The footsteps came closer. Thor pressed against Cole silently, trained instincts activating. Cole moved his hand in a slow downward gesture. Stay. Two officers passed the shed, flashlights sweeping low. One beam touched the stream, paused, then drifted away. Cole's muscles tightened. The second officer paused. Cole held his breath. Thor didn't move. Leela's hand squeezed around her dog so tightly her knuckles turned white. The officer took one more step. Then his radio crackled. Perimeter holding, reroute south. Copy, he muttered. He moved on. Cole waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. Only then did he let out a controlled exhale. For now, he murmured, we're clear. Leela leaned back, exhausted. Where do we go now? Cole sat beside her. His voice lowered to a tone meant only for her and the frightened animal in her arms. Far away from here. But they'll chase us, she whispered. Dad, Uncle, the police, they own everything. Cole shook his head. No, they own the surface, the image, the illusion. He looked out at the dark forest, a growing fire in his chest. But they don't own truth, and they definitely don't own me. Leela studied him through her shock. Why are you helping us? Cole stared at the muddy floor for a long moment, shadows flickering across his face. Then he answered quietly, because I've seen what happens when men like them go unchecked, and I didn't stop it once before. I won't make that mistake again. The words hung heavy. The wind shifted outside, footsteps faded deeper into the woods. Cole touched Thor's side gently. The dog responded with a soft, tired whine. We can't stay here, Cole said. They'll find the shed if they sweep this area. Leela wiped her tears. Where do we go? Somewhere with signal, Cole said. I need to call someone I trust. You trust someone? Cole's lips twitched in a half-smile. 1 or 2 people. And then... Cole looked out the crack of the door again. Then, he said, voice low and curt, we bring the mayor's empire down. Leela swallowed. How? Cole looked at her dog, injured and trembling. He looked at Thor, bleeding but refusing to rest. He looked at Leela, shaking but still standing. And he thought of the uncle downstairs, the mayor on the floor, the corrupt officers sweeping the woods, the system built around this mansion, a rotting tower of money, power, and silence. He spoke with a resolve that lit the shed like fire. We expose everything, every man, every crime, every room they think no one knows about. He stood, checking the shadows again. And we don't stop until they're the ones running for their lives. Leela rose to her feet, still terrified, but a spark of something else glimmered in her eyes. Hope. Cole motioned for Thor. Time to move. As they slipped into the darkness once more, the wind carried a faint sound behind them. More patrol cars. More men. More lights sweeping the trees. The mayor had unleashed his entire network. Cole Maddox had just made himself the enemy of the most powerful man in the city. But he had Leela, her injured dog, and Thor. And that was enough. Because when a predator picks the wrong victim, a seal becomes the predator. The forest thinned as Cole led Leela and the 2 dogs deeper into the dark ravine, following a narrow deer trail that wound between thorn bushes and leaning trees. Thor limped but stayed vigilant, ears pivoting with every distant sound. Leela hugged her injured terrier close to her chest, the tiny dog pressing its trembling body under her chin. Her breath came in shaky bursts, each step fueled more by survival instinct than strength. Cole kept scanning ahead, every sense sharpened. He knew they had minutes, maybe less, before the officers regrouped and expanded the search. These weren't regular patrol cops, they were hand-picked enforcers hired to protect powerful men like Langley and his brother. They learned their trade in the shadows, not academies. Cole stopped suddenly and raised a fist. Leela froze instantly. Thor went silent. The terrier whimpered. Cole crouched, brushing his fingers over the damp leaves. Tire tracks. Fresh. Mud still glistening. But the forest trail was too narrow for standard vehicles. ATVs. Small, fast, perfect for off-road pursuit. He stood quickly. We need to move now. Leela swallowed, voice barely audible. I'm trying. Cole knelt in front of her. Listen to me, you're doing good, better than most adults I've seen in situations like this, but we have to push just a little longer. She nodded with a shudder. Okay. Cole placed his hand lightly on her shoulder. Stay beside me. They began to move faster, slow jogs sandwiched between quiet, careful walking. Thor kept pace despite the pain radiating through his posture. Every few steps, Cole checked behind them for signs of pursuit. He didn't like what he saw. Flashlights cutting through the trees in wide sweeps. Radio static drifting through the air. Voices calling out positions. And then engines. High revving getting louder. Cole cursed under his breath. ATVs were closing in. He grabbed Leela's hand, dragging her behind a cluster of fallen logs. They knelt, breath held as two bright ATV headlights drifted across the forest floor above them, bouncing between the branches like predatory eyes. The engines passed within 30 feet. Close enough that the vibration shook the leaves. Close enough that Leela dug her nails into Cole's hand without realizing it. Close enough that Thor's growl rumbled so deep Cole had to grip his collar. The riders slowed their engines. Stopped. Cole felt Leela trembling beside him. One rider called out, "You see anything?" A second answered, "Footprints slope down the ravine, they didn't go far." A third voice, a harsh one Cole recognized as the tall officer, responded through a radio. "Find the girl, kill the man." Thor tensed hard. Cole placed a hand on his chest, holding him down. The riders sat for another agonizing minute, engines idling, scanning with lights. A single beam passed dangerously close to Cole's face, catching his boot for a split second before drifting away. Cole held his breath until his lungs burned. Finally, the ATVs revved again, spreading into different directions. One peeled uphill. One went deeper into the ravine. One circled toward the far side of the forest. Cole exhaled slowly. "We go north," he whispered. "Why north?" Leela breathed. "Because it's the last place they'll expect us, and because I know someone who lives that way." They moved again, but now the pressure felt suffocating. Any sound could give them away. Any step could be the one that led their hunters right to them. After nearly 15 minutes of climbing, they reached an old wooden fence, rotting, covered in moss, almost invisible unless someone knew where to look. Cole lifted one of the planks, revealing a small opening. "Go," he whispered. Leela crawled through first, Thor followed. Cole went last, replacing the plank silently. Behind the fence, the forest changed. The trees were older, the undergrowth thicker, the air heavier. It was the kind of untouched land developers had forgotten, hidden by its own wildness. Thor nudged Cole's leg. The dog had sensed something. Cole heard it a second later. Soft humming. Not engines. Not radios. Not footsteps. Electricity. A faint current, a generator, something man-made but hidden deep in the woods. Leela tugged Cole's sleeve. "Where are we?" "A place they won't search," Cole said, "because they don't know it exists." They followed the hum until the trees parted enough to reveal a small structure. A cabin. Old, weather-beaten. Half swallowed by vines and shadows. No driveway, no mailbox, no signs of life except for the light glowing faintly behind the curtains. Leela whispered, "Who lives here?" Cole stared at the cabin for a long moment, the memories catching him by surprise. "A friend," he said quietly, "someone I trust." He stepped onto the porch and knocked once, sharp, deliberate. No response. He knocked again. Thor stood stiff, listening. Then, a click. A latch unlocked from inside. The door cracked open 2 inches. A single green eye stared through the gap. Then a woman's voice whispered, "Cole." He nodded. The door opened fully. Standing there was a woman in her late 30s, hair cropped short, wearing a tactical shirt and sweatpants. Her posture was relaxed, but her eyes were alert, trained. She stared at Cole, then at the muddy child, the shaking terrier, and finally at Thor's limp. "Get inside," she said immediately, "all of you." They entered as she locked the door behind them with 3 separate mechanisms. The interior wasn't cozy. It was built like a safe house, reinforced walls, blackout curtains, a weapon rack behind a cabinet door left slightly ajar. But it was clean, warm, secure. The woman turned to Cole. "What the hell happened?" she asked. Before Cole could answer, Leela whispered, "Who is she?" Cole placed a steady hand on Leela's shoulder. "This," he said softly, "is Harper Blake." Leela blinked. "Your friend?" Cole nodded. "More than that," Harper corrected, "former SEAL and your best chance at surviving the night." Harper knelt in front of Leela's dog, examining the injuries with gentle hands. "He needs a vet," she murmured, "but he should make it." Leela burst into quiet tears. Harper pulled a blanket from a shelf and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're safe here," she said softly. "No one knows this cabin exists except us." Outside, an ATV roared distantly. Leela flinched. Cole moved toward the window, peering through a sliver in the curtains. "They've mobilized half the force to find her." "Why?" Harper asked. Cole answered with a bitterness Harper had never heard from him before. "Because her father and uncle have built a trafficking ring around this city, and she knows." Harper froze. Her eyes hardened like steel. "You walked into a war," she whispered. Cole exhaled. "Not walked, got dragged." Harper didn't smile. "Doesn't matter, we finish what they started." Thor limped to Cole's side, tail wagging weakly. Harper looked at Thor, then at Cole. "You're bleeding," she said. Cole glanced down, noticing a long gash across his arm he hadn't even felt. Later. Harper shook her head. "No, now you'll bleed out if you don't clean it." Cole let her wrap gauze around the wound, but his eyes stayed on Leela, still huddled with her dog on the couch, staring at the floor, looking small and broken. Cole walked to her and knelt in front of her again. "Leela," he said softly, "we need your help." She looked up slowly. "Help?" she whispered. I'm just a kid." "No," Cole said, and his voice wasn't gentle now, it was reverent. "You're the one person in this entire city who told the truth. You're braver than most soldiers I know." Her eyes welled. Cole continued, "Harper and I can take down your father, your uncle, the officers protecting them, the men they bring to this house." He paused, letting her breathe. "But we can't do it without you." Leela's hands tightened around her dog. She took a shaky breath. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. Cole and Harper exchanged a look. Harper answered, "Tell us everything." Leela closed her eyes, the weight of years pressing on her shoulders. When she opened them again, something had changed. A decision. A spark. Resolve. And in that tiny cabin, deep in the forest, far from the mansion dripping with evil, a child found her courage. And a war began. The cabin grew colder as the hours stretched, not from the night air but from the weight of what Leela revealed. She sat curled on the couch, her dog gently wrapped in Harper's spare towel, while the 2 former SEALs listened with a focus usually reserved for mission briefings. Thor lay beside her, exhausted, head resting on his paws, but his eyes stayed open, always watching her. Leela's voice trembled through the first sentences, then slowly steadied as the dam of silence finally cracked. "They started coming when I was 13, she whispered, staring at her hands rather than their faces. "Dad said they were just friends from work, donors, men who believed in the future of the city. But they stayed late, they drank, they asked to see my room." Cole's hand tightened into a fist, so hard the veins bulged. Harper inhaled sharply but remained still. Leela continued, "Uncle Mason is the one who arranged everything. He said we owed it to the people who paid for Dad's campaigns. He said that if I didn't cooperate, Dad would lose his job." Her voice cracked. "He said Dad would blame me." Cole felt the words like knives being pressed slowly into his skin. Harper's jaw clenched visibly. "And the officers?" Harper asked, her voice level but icy enough to freeze steel. "They guard the house during the parties," Leela said. "They take phones, they tell the staff to stay quiet or they'll get fired. Some of them," she swallowed hard, "some of them drink with the guests." Cole stared at her, feeling a slow-burning fury building in his chest, not the kind that made him reckless but the kind that sharpened him into something precise, controlled, lethal. Leela hugged her dog tighter. Tonight, when Dad got drunk, he broke the bottle. He hit him. She stroked the terrier's fur. When I screamed, he said I made him do it. Cole reached forward, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. You didn't make him do anything. He chose it. He chose all of it. Tears slid down her cheeks despite how hard she tried to hold them back. Harper leaned forward. Leela, can you tell us the names of the men who came to the house? Leela nodded shakily. I remember some, not all, but I know who kept the lists. Who? Cole asked. Dad keeps files. She wiped her face. Guest lists, donations, meetings, pictures. Uncle Mason said they were for leverage, something to use in case anyone talked. Harper exchanged a dark look with Cole. Blackmail. Leela nodded. It's all in his office, in the basement. Behind the bar counter, there's a hidden panel. He thought I never saw him open it. Cole's eyes narrowed. Is it a locked safe? Yes, Leela whispered, with a keypad. Harper stood. If we get those files, we don't just expose the mayor, we take down every sick bastard in that network. Cole pushed himself up slowly. His muscles ached, his ribs pulsed where he'd slammed against tree roots, and his cut arm throbbed under the bandage, but none of that mattered. He had a target now, a plan. We're going back, he said. Leela's head shot up. No, we can't, please. Cole knelt beside her again. Leela, you're not going back inside, we are. Harper nodded. You stay here with Thor and your dog. Leela hesitated, but she trusted them. She'd run out of options long before they'd arrived. Harper moved toward the back of the cabin and opened a chest. Inside were weapons, handguns, suppressed rifles, a combat knife, spare mags, and a small pouch of tactical tools. Cole raised an eyebrow. You keeping a private arsenal now? Harper shrugged. Some girls collect candles. Despite the tension, a faint smile tugged at Leela's lips for the first time in hours. Harper tossed Cole a suppressed pistol and a fresh mag. You'll need these. Cole checked the slide. Smooth, clean. Harper maintained her weapons the way surgeons clean scalpels. You sure you're fit for this? She asked. Cole flexed his bandaged arm. I'll manage. Harper nodded. Then we leave in 10. Leela abruptly gripped Cole's sleeve. Wait. He paused. What's the code? He asked softly. She shook her head. No, not that. Her voice trembled. There's more. Cole felt a quiet chill crawl up his spine. Tell me. She lowered her eyes. There's a red USB in the safe. Uncle Mason gave it to Dad. He said if anyone ever tried to expose them, everything they recorded would be on that USB. Videos, emails, names, everything. Harper's expression hardened as if someone had flipped a switch. Then that's our objective. Cole nodded. That USB means leverage. Leverage means survival. Harper added, and it means protection for you. She reached forward, brushing Leela's hair back. Once it's out in the open, they can't touch you again. Leela clutched her dog to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her anchored to the ground. Cole rose. Thor stays with her. Thor whined softly, pressing against Cole's leg, but Cole stroked his head gently. I need you here, he whispered. Guard her. Thor lowered his head but obeyed. He moved beside Leela, resting against her legs protectively. Her tiny terrier snuggled against Thor instinctively. Harper strapped a tactical vest around her torso. Cole did the same. He paused at the door. You ready? Harper asked. Cole exhaled slowly. I've been ready since I walked through that door tonight. They stepped outside into the cold night air. Crickets chirped. Distant engines hummed somewhere beyond the trees. The moon hung low, shrouded behind drifting clouds. Harper whispered, we approach from the ridge. Stay off the trail. They'll have men posted. Cole nodded. They moved. Two shadows cutting silently through the forest, every step calculated, every sense alert. They reached the ridge overlooking the mayor's estate. From here, the mansion looked deceptively peaceful, dim lights glowing, no visible movement. But Cole knew what hid beneath that calm. Danger, secrets, corruption thicker than the walls that surrounded the property. Harper slowly scanned the grounds through binoculars. 2 patrol units by the garage, 1 ATV parked, no movement inside the front rooms. Cole pointed rooftop thermal scope. Harper adjusted lenses. Got him, sniper. Take him out, Cole murmured. Not yet, Harper said. He hasn't spotted us. Cole studied the mansion. The basement window on the west side, hidden by shrubs, that's our entry. Harper smiled faintly. Old habits never die, huh? Only the bad ones. They descended the ridge, using shadows as their cover. 10 meters from the house, Harper whispered, "Stop." Cole froze. A guard patrolled near the side of the house, mid-50s, bulkier, probably hired muscle rather than law enforcement. He smoked a cigarette lazily, tapping ash onto the bricks. Cole and Harper slipped behind him like ghosts. Harper moved first, one arm around the man's neck, the other covering his mouth. Cole caught the cigarette before it hit the ground. The man struggled silently, legs flailing, then fell limp. Harper lowered him gently. They reached the basement window. The shrubbery helped hide their movement. Cole pulled a small tool kit from Harper's pouch, popped the latch, and pushed the window up. Cool air drifted out, carrying the faint smell of expensive liquor and polished wood. Cole whispered, "After you." Harper slid through first, Cole followed. They landed in the mayor's private bar room, bottles lining the wall, framed awards and plaques everywhere. It was the kind of room built for hiding secrets under luxury. Cole moved straight to the counter. He felt underneath. His fingers brushed a hidden seam. "There," he whispered. Harper knelt beside him as he pried open the concealed panel. Behind it sat a small steel safe with a keypad. Cole stared. "What's the code?" Harper asked. "Leela's birthday," Cole said softly. "Why that?" Cole's face hardened. "Because that's the kind of monster her father is." He typed it in. The safe clicked open. Inside were neatly stacked files labeled with dates and initials, flash drives, photos, donation envelopes, a thick ledger. And one item wrapped in red tape. A single USB drive. Harper reached for it. The basement door swung open upstairs. Footsteps thundered down. Voices shouted. Cole grabbed the USB and the ledger. "Move," he hissed. Harper drew her weapon. The guards poured into the stairwell. Cole shoved the safe closed, grabbed Harper's arm and pulled her behind the bar counter. Bullets tore into the wood above their heads. Harper returned fire, dropping the first guard through the doorway. Cole grabbed her vest. "We go out the window." "Too late," Harper snapped. "They're surrounding the outside." Cole looked at the USB in his hand, red tape glinting. "Their one chance. Their only chance." He took a breath. "Then we fight our way out." Gunfire shredded the air. Rounds chewed through the shelves above Cole's head, exploding bottles in a shower of glass and whiskey. Liquid rained down, stinging his cut arm. The cramped basement bar turned into a storm of splinters and shattering crystal. "Left side," Harper shouted. Cole shifted, peeking around the end of the bar for half a second, just enough. 3 men in tactical gear were pouring through the doorway, moving in a staggered formation, guns up, faces cold. He ducked back as a burst of fire tore into the bar top. "We're pinned," Harper hissed. "Not yet," Cole said. He shoved the USB into his vest pocket and slid along the floor, feeling shards dig into his elbows. The room was small, but he could still work angles. Harper kept up a steady rhythm of controlled bursts, never panicked, never wild. One shot clipped a man's shoulder. He shrieked and stumbled back up the stairs. "That's one worried," she muttered. "2 more," Cole replied. He spotted a small chrome tap handle near his hand. An idea sparked. He grabbed it and flicked it across the room. It clattered against the far wall. Instantly, one of the guards whipped his attention toward the sound and fired. Cole rose from behind the opposite end of the bar and shot twice. One bullet punched through the man's thigh, dropping him. The second hit center mass, knocking him flat. His gun skidded across the floor. A third guard dove sideways, snapping his aim toward Cole. Harper nailed him first, clean through the chest. His body crashed into a liquor cabinet. Silence flooded the basement. Cole's breathing came hard but controlled. "How many more do you think?" Harper listened. "At least 4 on perimeter, sniper on the roof, tall sadist upstairs." "The sergeant," Cole said. They both moved at once. No time to linger. No time to second guess. Harper kicked a fallen guard's weapon toward Cole. He scooped it up and slung it over his shoulder, then grabbed the ledger and tucked it under his vest. The USB sat against his chest like a hot coal, every heartbeat reminding him what was at stake. Harper pointed at the basement door. They know we're here, they'll clog that staircase with bodies, we need another way. Cole glanced back at the small window they'd used to enter. They'll have that covered too by now. He scanned the room. Liquor shelves, cabinets, floor drain. Floor drain. He moved to it, yanked the cover off, and peered down. Tell me that doesn't go where I think it goes, Harper said. Sewers, Cole confirmed, but they won't expect us to go back underground. Harper winced. You and sewers, man. He looked at her. You in or out? She smirked faintly, like you even have to ask. He dropped into the drain first. His boots splashed into knee-deep water. His ribs protested, but he forced himself upright. Harper slid down after him, landing with a splash and a quiet curse. Voices thundered down the basement stairs as they moved into the tunnel. Down here they dropped into the drain. Cole snapped his light on and picked the direction opposite the mansion's main sewer outflow. This way. Why not toward the street? Harper asked, jogging through the muck beside him. Too predictable, Cole said. We head north toward the ridge. In the cabin, Harper realized. Exactly. They moved fast, feet sloshing, guns up. The tunnel curved slightly, the sound of pursuit echoing behind them. Harper glanced back once, eyes narrowing. They're not dropping in yet, she said, probably trying to cut us off topside. Let them try, Cole muttered. They reached an access ladder after 100 yards. Cole killed his light and pressed a hand to the rung. Vibrations drifted through the metal engines overhead. Movement. Radio chatter faint and muffled. Blocked, he whispered. They're above us. Then we keep going, Harper said. They pushed deeper into the network, following Cole's internal map. He'd memorized the layout when he'd first taken work in this city. It was just habit. He always wanted to know where the exits were. Minutes later, they reached another ladder. This time it was quieter, no engine vibration, just the distant rustle of wind. Cole nodded upward. This one. Harper climbed first, easing the heavy hatch up an inch, then another. She peered through, then dropped back down. Clear woods. They climbed out into the cold air, a good distance from the mansion's shining facade. The forest here was darker, steeper, quieter. From this vantage point, the mayor's estate looked like a lit stage in a black ocean. We've got the files, Harper said. Now what? We go home, Cole said softly. Cabin. He shook his head. No, home to Leela. They moved through the trees at a fast, silent pace, skirting patrol paths and angling away from the main search grid. It took them 20 minutes to cover the distance back to the hidden fence line, another 5 to slip through and approach the cabin. Cole's heart hammered harder the closer they got. If anything had happened. Thor's bark shattered his spiraling thoughts. One sharp bark, not panicked, alert. Cole exhaled, tension loosening. They stepped onto the porch, 3 knocks. The locks clicked in the familiar pattern. The door opened. Leela stood there, blanket still wrapped around her, eyes swollen from crying, but alive. Her little dog sat on the couch behind her, one side of its head bandaged carefully with gauze and tape. Thor trotted over, greeting Cole with a tired nudge. Leela stared at them, voice barely above a whisper. You came back. Cole stepped inside. Told you we would. Harper shut the door behind them, locking all 3 mechanisms. We got what we needed. Leela blinked. What does that mean? Cole reached into his vest and pulled out the USB wrapped in red tape. It gleamed under the cabin's dim light like something obscene. This, he said, is everything your father and uncle never wanted anyone to see. Leela's breath hitched. Can it stop them? Harper answered, if we handle it right, it won't just stop them, it will bury them. How? Leela's voice wavered. You said the police work for them. Some. Cole said, not all. He pulled out the ledger and set it on the table. Names, dates, payoffs, signatures. The paper smelled like ink and guilt. I know a federal contact, he said. One who doesn't owe your father a single favor, and I know how to make sure he sees this before anyone can bury it. Harper nodded. We don't go through the local chain, we go above it, way above it. Leela watched them both, fear battling with fragile hope. What if they come here? What if they find us? Cole crouched in front of her again, the same way he had in her bedroom before they jumped. They won't, he said. This cabin is off every map, no grid, no utilities in any system. Harper built it for a reason. For ghosts, Harper said quietly, and we're very good at being ghosts. Leela held her dog closer. What about my mom? We'll protect her, Cole said. Once this goes public, once the feds raid his office and his accounts and his friends, she'll have a way out, a real way. Leela swallowed hard. And my dad? Cole didn't sugarcoat it. If justice works the way it's supposed to, he'll go to prison for a very long time. Some complicated emotion flickered across Leela's face, grief, anger, numbness all tangled together. He was my dad, she whispered, but he was also a monster. Cole nodded. Both can be true. She wiped her face with the blanket. And Uncle Mason. Harper's voice dropped to something sharp. Men like him don't do well when their leverage disappears. Leela stared at the USB. They recorded everything, she said. I thought I'd be haunted by those memories alone, but if it's there on that. Cole finished gently. Then it's not just your word against theirs, it's proof. Silence settled over the room. Thor shifted closer to Leela. The big dog nudged her arm with his nose, and for the first time since Cole had met her, she smiled without it breaking. She stroked Thor's head. You saved us, she whispered. Cole felt something tighten in his chest. He wasn't used to hearing those words anymore. Thor did most of the work, he said. Harper snorted. You say that like you didn't tackle a cop through a hallway wall. Leela's gaze moved from Thor to Cole. Why did you really help us? She asked, steady this time. You could have walked away, nobody forced you. Cole held her eyes and gave her the truth. Because people like your father count on everyone looking the other way, he said. Count on fear, count on silence. I've seen what happens when no one steps in. I'm done watching. Her lower lip trembled, but she pressed it into a thin line instead of letting it wobble. What happens now? She asked. Cole looked at Harper. Harper nodded toward the small table in the corner where an old, secure laptop sat. Now, she said, we make a copy. They worked quickly. Harper plugged the USB into a hardened reader, air-gapped from any network. Files populated on the screen, video thumbnails, scanned documents, audio recordings, emails. The sheer volume made Cole's skin crawl. Harper copied everything to an encrypted drive, then again to a second. Redundancy, she muttered. If they somehow get one, they won't get them all. Cole watched the progress bar inch along, feeling each percent like a countdown. When it finished, Harper removed the drives and handed one to Cole. He pocketed it. I'll deliver this one. And I'll hold the other, Harper said. Insurance. Leela frowned. What about the original? Harper held it up between two fingers. Cole looked at it for a long second, then shook his head. We keep it for now. Leverage cuts both ways. Thunder rolled faintly in the distance, only it wasn't thunder. It was the city. Sirens, helicopters, engines, the sound of a network tightening around its own rot. Cole stood grabbing his jacket. Leela's eyes widened. You're leaving. For a while, he said. I need to get this drive into the right hands before your father's people realize the safe is empty. And me, Leela whispered. You stay with Harper, Thor stays too. Thor barked once as if confirming the assignment. Harper placed a hand on Leela's shoulder. They won't touch you here, she said, not unless they want a very bad day. Leela looked like she wanted to argue, to hold on, to ask him not to go. But she was his equal in one crucial way now. She understood that sometimes running toward danger was the only way to end it. She stood, walked over to Cole and hugged him carefully around the waist. It was awkward and small but fierce. Thank you, she whispered into his chest, for stepping in, for not pretending you didn't hear. He rested a hand lightly on the back of her head for just a moment. You did the hard part, he said. You survived long enough for someone to hear you. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Will I see you again? A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. If I do this right, you'll see me on the news. Harper rolled her eyes. Show off. He headed for the door. Thor watched him torn, then looked back at Leela. Cole pointed at her. Guard. Thor stayed. That's what made Cole proudest. Not that the dog obeyed, but that Thor understood who needed him most. Cole stepped out into the cold, dark night and closed the door quietly behind him. The forest swallowed him again as he descended toward the city, toward the lights hiding wolves, toward the institutions that had turned their backs on a girl and her dog. He could already feel the familiar weight of a mission settling on his shoulders. It wasn't sanctioned, wasn't ordered, wasn't clean. But it was simple. Expose the truth, protect the kid, burn the rot. Hours later, long before dawn, encrypted files began hitting federal inboxes. Whistleblower drops, anonymous tips, video leaks, ledger scans, audio clips of deals brokered in luxury rooms. By sunrise, Mayor Robert Langley's mansion was surrounded. Not by his men. By theirs. Federal jackets. Unmarked cars. Reporters gathering like storm clouds. Harper watched the coverage on a small battery-powered TV in the cabin, volume low. Leela sat beside her, both dogs curled up together, Thor's head resting protectively over the smaller one. She saw her father being led out in handcuffs, shouting about conspiracies and lies. She saw her uncle shoved into a separate car, eyes wild, composure gone. She saw names scrolling across the screen: donors, officials, officers, men who had smiled in public and rotted in private. She saw something else too. A grainy still shot of a man caught on a distant camera the night before. Running through the woods with a girl in his arms and a dog at his side. The caption called him an unidentified suspect. Leela knew better. She smiled, tired, bruised, healing, but real. Because she knew what the cameras couldn't say. That the man in the shadows had heard a scream and decided not to walk past it. That a Navy SEAL and his dog had stepped between a powerful monster and the girl he'd been hurting for years. That what happened next hadn't just changed her life. It had given it back to her. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info.